Hey folks, I'm Johnny. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to carve Buddy the Elf. What's your favorite color? I saw these carvings by a fellow named Rebel Carver on Instagram, and he carved several little fellas in this same kind of style with just a belt showing and simple hats, simple outlooks, just a head, face, no arms, no legs, just a simple little style ornament. We're just looking to take a couple of key features and make it iconic enough that you look at it and you go, hey, that's Buddy the Elf right there. That hat, that nose, that hair, and because of that hair, you can see the texture to it. We're going to use not just knife, but a U-gouge as well, and as well as a V-tool along that belt line. I'll show you how to use one there. So we're going to use a U-gouge and a V-tool to do something a little more complicated. You can do all of this without one. If you don't want to do the hair texture, you could probably do this whole carving with just a knife. So definitely stick around. We're going to jump right into it right now. What I suggest is using a block that is 5 inches tall, so you can carve two of these bad boys. You can carve one on the one end, and once you get done carving that one on the other end, you can flip it around, hold on to that one, and carve one on the other end, and then take them outside, and you can cut them apart, finish carving the bottom just a little bit. You just want to like smooth it out, so to speak. I'm going to carve this on a longer block, and I'm just going to measure down 2.5 inches for my carving. This is actually a 4-inch block I'm using, but that doesn't matter because I'm measuring down 2.5 inches and 2.5 inches that we're going to carve. But the fact that it's a 4.5 inch block doesn't matter. It's just going to give us something to hold on to more than just 2.5 inches if you want to have more to hold on to. So I'm going to do that just to show folks that aren't sure about doing it how easy it can be. That way, if you're really having a problem with carving something that's 2 inches, 2.5 inches or smaller, this is what you can do to get around that. Yeah, 2.5 inches. So I'm going to use my OCCT detail knife. Absolutely one of my favorite blades. On the top of this block here, so this is our bottom. We're going to be getting rid of that. That's getting cut off, okay? So on the top of this block right here, I'm going to draw a line from each corner to each corner diagonally. And that's going to help me keep the center of this block lined up. And it's also going to help me draw the location of the hat that I'm looking to put on the top of the carving, because this guy's going to have a little hat. Now, for those of you playing the home game, in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, that overlay is the carving that we're making right now. It's a picture I took after I finished him. I can't see him, but you can, and it's a fantastic little benefit of being able to have post-production and put that in for me. Editor Johnny's job has to do that. Right now, I'm not Editor Johnny. I'm Carving Johnny, so I'm going to go ahead and carve whatever I want to. So I'm going to draw a line from that corner to about the midway point here on this line. So midway from the center to that corner, midway point from there to that corner. Same thing on the side, from that corner to about the midway point. Now, from about the midway point on the front of the hat, we're going to curve this one. Kind of a half circle kind of thing right there. Curving this one as well. And that gives us the shape of our hat on the top of the head. Just like you might expect to see right there, that's the general shape of the hat, okay? The hairline is going to come down from there. So how long are we coming down for our hairline along the front of the carving? Well, first off, let's start with our chin. That big old chin of his is going to be 1.75, so 1 3/4 of an inch. And the centimeters version should be up on the screen. So 1 3/4 of an inch down is the bottom of the chin. 1 1/8 down is the bottom of the nose. That's the bottom of the nose. And our hairline is about 3/8 down from the top. 3/8 from the top, okay? So 3/8 from the top, that's our hairline right there. This is our nose right there. And this is the base of the chin, okay? Right there. This is really all we need to worry about for right now to start setting this in. So I'm going to ignore the chin location for right now. We're going to come back to that in a little bit. And I'm going to ignore the hairline for a moment. We're going to start right here with our nose location, which is that middle line. Now, we're not going to go too deep in. Before we get too deep in, though, let's start here. Let us just carve off about 1/8 of an inch all the way around on our corners. Ooh, that chipped off way more than I wanted it to. This is what happens when your wood splits. You want to be careful. That probably took off a little bit more than I want to. It's going to be okay. I can still work with it. So if you take off that much, don't worry about it. But that's where the wood splits, and that's one of the things we got to be careful with watching, that we don't let happen when we're carving. So take off a little bit at a time. If you're pulling too much, back up if you can, okay? But that's about the depth we wanted to go, so it'll be all right. We'll make do. Like so. If you need to redo your lines on there, maybe, because you lost them doing that, you can still do that right now. So we're going to go into the nose carving, and we're going to put a stop cut right here, straight across, and then we're going to carve right up to it. And you can carve all the way down from the chin up into there if you want to. That's just fine. And we're only taking out about 1/8 of an inch depth. We don't have to go crazy deep. Then I'm going to take off the corners here, and I'm not going to take off much. There's a bit of an angle from the middle section out, bit of an angle from that middle section out, and then carve up to it. How I angle this nose is going to change the way this carving looks. This guy's nose is angled up a little bit more on one side than the other. Same for this guy, right? And that just changes the look. This guy is pretty even all the way across, and that gives him a different look. Figure out what you're wanting to go for, what you want to do. If you want to make him a little more whimsical, a little snide kind of smirk kind of thing going on or whatever, you can do that. You can raise one side up a little bit more and bring it in. This one's going to be pretty even right there across there. So that's what we're going to do with it for this guy right here. Now for that hairline, I am going to put it in just barely right here, just to give us something to think on right there and keep us honest. So that is all I'm doing right there. Next, let's worry about bringing in the sides of our head here and our hairline to our hat. And what we're going to do is we're going to carve on this corner here from about the nose height up and just kind of come up there. And then I'm rounding it over. You can see what it looks like right there. I'm starting down here and then coming up, and I get a little bit higher, take more off, and a little bit higher, take more off, and I'm bringing that in to about the width of that hat. I'm going to do the same thing here, starting down at the nose line the first time, and then about halfway down the nose line, and then about the hair height, and I keep bringing it in, and I bring it in right about to the edge. I still need to go a little bit deeper, I think, on this side here. Do that right there, and do a little bit deeper right here. And now we're going to work on this plane right here, and I'm going to go about midway down the line that we've already got done here. So we went down a little bit further here. I'm going to come right about here and bring up right there. And we're bringing that rounded part in, okay, to our hat right there, okay? The same thing over here, just like so. Just like so. So we're bringing that in, bringing that shape of our hat in along the top of the carving. Now we're going to do the same thing on the front. From that hairline, I'm going to get underneath here a bit, and I'm going to carve that front off, right like so. I'm going to carve it off, put the same height right there, put the same height right there, okay? Just bringing that in just a bit to where I get close to, but not perfectly on those lines, just close to, like that right there. That is enough. And we didn't come down as far. Again, we came down to about the nose line here, but around here we're about halfway back up, about halfway back up, about halfway back up there, trying to get to that spot as we go along there. Now, what we want to do is we want to have our hairline is coming down 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to mark about 3/8 of an inch again, round about there, okay? We want to go from that hairline here, from that 3/8 of an inch mark, and we want to have a slow incline back to that back corner, all the way to there. So we're going to bring that line all the way back, like so. Now you can start right here and just start carving back in like a paring cut, a little bit on each side as we start to bring that back if you want to. And that works, you get it clean, but it's hard to get that angle right. So you can come in here from the left or right if you want to, and do it down here first. Do those push cuts if that makes it easier for you. However it is that is easiest for you, that's the way you should focus on it. That's the way you should do it. The goal is not how I do the cut. The goal should be to get the same shape that I have gotten when you're done, or a general shape. Remember, the goal isn't always to do the same carving I do. You don't want it to be exactly like mine. You want it to be a little bit original. if you look at the carvings that I got sitting out here, not one of them is exactly like any of the others. They are all slightly different. This guy here has a thinner face. This guy's got a bigger jaw. This guy has got a bigger nose, and this guy's got, again, a thinner face. They're all slightly different, and I like each one for the different qualities they have. Each one is very iconically the elf.
Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color? Put that down. Hello.
Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color? So we got a lot of saw marks on here still. I'm going to start working those off real fast. All the way around the carving. I'm just going to take those off. I'm not worried about any of these other lines. Putting all of those saw marks out. Don't need those saw marks. And I say this in every video because I never know which video will be someone's first, but those saw marks, we want to get rid of those on the carving because they take paint and stain differently. So if we don't notice them, when we get to the end of the carving and it's all done and we haven't taken them off, that section of the carving that's still got those saw marks on them, we're going to take paint and stain differently and be like, why didn't my carving come out even and like looking pretty like Johnny's? The color came out even everywhere. Why didn't mine? And it might be because we left those saw marks in the carving. So we want to get those off. If we get it touched with a blade at every spot we can, it will look better than if we don't. Absolutely, 100%. Our hairline is going to rest at the top of our nose right here. Take that off. I want our hairline to come right down to about right here. And that's a good guesstimate, right? That's maybe an inch. That looks like it's about 5/8 of an inch up from the nose. That's about where the hairline I put right there is. And that hairline is going to continue down and around the back of the carving like so, and back and around, back up to there, okay? That's the hairline. And we're going to kind of round that off as we go, but it's also going to come down a bit here where the ears are going to be, because we're going to cover the ears with hair like so, like so. Just kind of guesstimating, and I'm coming down on the back of that carving from the top. The back of the carving here, that's about the 1.5 inch mark. If you really want to know how far down I came from the very top corner, it's about 1.5 inches down. That's where we came to for our hairline. On the face here, we can adjust the size of the face right now however we want to make this carving look however we want to. You can see, like I showed you, I got some variations of these guys. Let me look at these two here. They're like the starkest contrast. Each one of these guys has a very different face. One has got wider cheeks, one has got a longer nose, one's got a thinner face. Both of them have very distinctive features, but they are still very clearly Buddy the Elf. How we draw this face in the next step is going to determine the shape of his face. You don't have to carve the face the way that I carve the face. You can carve this face however you want to, whatever shape you want to. Remember that. And if you make multiples of these, make them all different sizes and shape. I like the idea of coming down the head about on this flat plane right here, about the midway point, and I'm going to carve out, I'm going to draw out like so, and then down to that chinny area, down to that chinny area, okay? Just like so. That gives me some wide-ish cheeks. And adjust however you feel like you need to. Getting a good jawline, wide-ish cheeks, I kind of like that. And what I'm going to do is I am going to carve from here, and I'm going to carve at an angle. So coming straight in is with the spine of the blade straight in like that. I'm going to carve downhill with the hair being uphill, the inside of the face being downhill. I'm going to carve downhill around the outside edge of this face. So it angles in, and I'm just going to carve down and around to that point where it turns right there. I'm going to do the same thing in the other direction, carving from that middle section up here. And I'm angling it in, angling downhill toward the face with the hair being uphill, and carve right down to that same point, right there to that point on the corner where it tries to transition to the jawline. And now I'm going to carve with just the tip and come in along that face line right there. I'm going to do the same thing in the other direction. I'm going to do a pairing cut on this side, and carve up and in, rotating that knife blade if it's easier. And then I'm going to carve that last section out right here, like so. And we got that first part of the face done up right there. Now that hairline, we want that hairline to continue down here. That's the spot where we bring it over. It's right there in the corner of that jawline. That's where we brought it over right there. So I did all that right there drawing for nothing. Forget about that. It's right where that comes over. That's where we're going to bring it around and bring it down to that spot down there. And we'll adjust it. And as we go, we'll curve that around. We start carving this off. For right now, let's go ahead and put our chin line in. So right there where our chin's going to be, we're going to rock that knife blade in left to right, and then we're going to carve right up to that point from all the way down to the bottom of our carving, which is the 2.5-inch mark right there, and chipping that out right there. So we got our chin set up looking the way we want to. We can start to bring that around now, carving at an angle in. Like I'm flat on this corner, and I'm going to come into that and carve up to it. Flat on this corner, looking straight into this corner right here. I'm going to carve at that angle, and I'm going to carve right to it. And that starts to set in that jawline just a bit right there. And then you can kind of round that edge off you a little bit if you want to, right there. Now I want to start setting in this hairline as we go around. So right here, I'm going to come into a 45-degree angle. It's like on this flat line right here, I'm going to come in on that line there and come at a 45-degree angle up and just sink the knife in right there with the tip of the knife being right along the edge of that face, just like so. And then I'm going to carve right up to it and I'm going to chip that out, okay? That gives me a little bit of a starting point to start working this hairline around with V-cuts, like so, okay? And if I want to bring that up a little bit higher and adjust that hairline, I can absolutely do that right now. I'm going to do the same thing over here, same way, holding the carving in a different spot so I can cut in a different direction. And is that pretty even? That's pretty even. I like that. And then I'm going to just work this around the back of the head, taking chips out as I go. Okay, and we've got that hairline started pretty well. Now I want to set in the rest of this jawline, and I want to tuck that in behind the hair here. So what I'm going to do is right here along that jawline, not coming straight in the carving, I'm going to come at a 45-degree angle right there, and I'm going to sink that knife blade in with the tip of the knife blade being right underneath the edge of that hair, okay? And now I'm going to come up right along the edge of that hair, right up into the jaw, and then just snap that out if I can or if I need to. And that's what we're doing to set in that jawline up underneath that hair. Do the same thing from this side. It's the same angle, just reversed. And then I'm going to carve right up to it, like so. And we have set that in. Now, at this point, I've got a lot of shaping to do. I need to round off this hair because this hair is going to come around like this, where this line meets right here. From this point over here, we're going to have a hat. So we're just putting that hat kind of on the back of the head, working that around. So we're going to work that around. We're also going to round off all of this. We want to make it as round as we can, not have it too square. If you go down a little bit past this section right here, past your line, that is just fine. If I was carving in the bottom of this, I wouldn't worry about it. You can see I did this one. I'm going to carve another one on the bottom of this one, and I won't have any problem doing that because I even set the line in a little bit, just give you something to hold on to. So I'm going to start bringing this in all the way up to the hair from down here, and I'm going to round off those edges as I do it. So I don't want to have any real heavy facets showing that it was a square block. At this point, I want to get rid of most of those if I can, as much as I can, and I want to bring in this area around the hair and around the head so that it's not protruding as much. I want to have that conical shape, not canonical, conical shape as it comes up to the head, like so, like so. That's moving right along. I am just right now, for our purposes, setting that line in right here around there so you can see where this carving stops at. You don't need to do that. You can if you want to. If you're carving in a larger block than the 1.5 inch, go for it. If not, just skip ahead. Okay, that allows me to see there more, those hard corners. I want to take those down and not have many hard corners in here. As best I can, I want to smooth all of this out down here. Now, we're going to start rounding off all of these hard corners. We want this to be like a donut sitting on the back of his head. So we want to have it rounded going from the top left down to the bottom right around here, and then from the bottom left to the top right around like so. And we're going to do that nice and slow. If we need to, take a little bit off of time, getting all those hard corners as best we can and rounding them off. Now around this line we drew for the hat, I'm going to come in a little swooping cuts to bring that in a little bit more. That's going to help me round it out when I start setting the hat in. Okay, just kind of swoop in from the top, swoop in from the bottom, swoop in from the top if you need to. If you can't do it in all one fluid motion, swoop in from one direction, then the other, like so, and then we'll get that rounded just a bit as we come around there. Okay, now we've rounded that a bit. You can see that our hat has already begun to take shape. So now we're going to V-cut along that same kind of channel, that same kind of area that we just did that swooping cut in. We're just going to do little V-cuts here, okay? Come in from one side, like so. Like so. Follow it up along the top. They don't need to be crazy deep. I just need to set in a hard line. And remember, we don't want to push too hard because we don't want to cut ourselves, especially the wrong angles. What we can do is you slide the knife. You slide the knife to get the depth you want, slide the knife. And you'll find you do more with less pressure and sliding that knife than you do with more pressure not sliding. So slide the knife. Watch, I'm going to slide this knife right here, right? Sliding it forward, and it goes right down where I want it to. Slide it forward. Not a lot of pressure, just a little bit of sideways movement. Slices through like you're slicing bread. Okay? Now for this hat, I want to start smoothing out all of those hard lines. Don't need those. Yeah, and that hat looks absolutely fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So I'm going to keep going around though, and I'm going to round out this hair as best I can. Just going around and rounding out that hair. Taking off all those pencil marks too, because I don't need those. Those hard lines along the top hair here, along the face, we can take those hard lines off. If you want to try to take that down there along that jawline too, open that hair up a little bit more if that's what you think you can do. That's what you think you need to do. All right, so on the face, let's go ahead and set the rest of our face in now. I got the hair looking good, the hat's looking good, roughed in. Let's go ahead and set the face in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do V-cuts right here. So from that center line, I'm going to come over here about 1/4 inch or so, and I'm going to put in that line here, just a little 1/8 inch up to set in a little V here, okay? That little V is going to be the wings of our nose, kind of right there, and just carve that out. Nothing complicated right there in any way whatsoever. But that's going to leave us a spot to put smile lines and come down as well. So let's go ahead and put some smile lines in right here. And however wide out you come with those is going to determine kind of how happy he is, how wide that mouth is. Once I get that cut in, I'm just going to come straight up along that line, up underneath the nose right there. Do the same thing on the other side here. Do a pairing cut if I need to. Right like so. Right like that. Okay, so now that we got that nose set in the way that we do, I'm going to take that 5mm U, and this is the first time we use it, and it's going to make it a little bit easier on this face. From that corner, right there in the peak of that corner, I'm going to put the very base of that U right there, and I'm not going to go very deep, and I'm going to come up and to the left just slightly to set in the bridge of that nose, okay? Just a slight angle in, you can see, slightly just angled in like so and going right up. I'm going to do this again on this side here. That U is going to go right into that corner and then just go slightly angle it up and in and go right like so, and that gives him a good sized nose right there. Now for the chin, right here, the width of this U gouge from the bottom of the chin, that's where I'm going to come in at. And I'm just going to come straight across, taking out a U shape right there. And that's going to set in our chin. Just like so. So that's all we're using the U for. We're going to use it again when we go to do the hairline. Now that we got that done, we're going to set in a good smile, and we're going to come anywhere in here you want to. Just make sure that the wings, the sides of it, are higher than the middle, and that's all we're going to do. And I'm just going to draw that line with the knife from one side to the other. If you don't get it perfectly on there, that's fine. As long as the left and right side are higher than the middle, you're going to be just fine. Then carve down to it through here if you want to. I like carving down to it. You can also carve up to it if you want to give them a little bit of an overbite or an underbite, depending on what you want. I'm going to round off that bottom line as well. And there is the grin that he's going to have. I think that's a pretty good looking face so far. Now, there is very little detail to add left. What we're going to do here is we can add the texture here. We can add a line around the hat and yeah, do our collar and our belt. So let's do the collar first, okay? On the collar, from here, we're going to come out from the left and right sides of the chin, right here. Add an angle, and then that collar is going to come up here underneath the hair. We're going to get to where we're just barely off the bottom of the hair as we get around the back of the carving, and then meet up in the back here, coming up just like so, like that. So we come down there about 1/4 inch, and then we go around the back of the carving, slow incline up the back. We're just barely under the back of the hair, and that's what we're doing for the collar. Now on the front of this collar, I'm going to use the knife to set this in. So I'm coming right along this line here at this angle and then coming straight in. I'm going to make sure this is downhill a little bit, so I'm going to angle it slightly, just ever so slightly, like so. The back of the blade here is coming out right at the back of that line, so I'm not going past it. And I carve right up underneath the neck to pop that out. Do the same thing to the other side. Right up underneath the neck, pop that out. Smooth that line if you need to. And that is the line for there, okay? Now this is where you can use a V-tool. You can absolutely take your knife and come all the way around here and just carve up to it all the way around. Even if I use the V-tool to set this line in first, I'm going to do this anyway with a knife because I want that shadow from this collar being out further all the way around the carving. And once I get this set in, I am going to carve up and smooth out every section through here, bringing it in and underneath that collar all the way around. Like so. one more spot. We'll do that like that. Ship it out. See, and now it's looking a lot smoother underneath there. It's looking a little bit better. Now on the front of this carving, what really sets him apart and makes you recognize who he is that belt buckle. So we're going to draw a big old belt buckle right here, just a big square. You can make it a rectangle, you can make it whatever you want to. Just understand the interior square that you draw, this is going to be the size of the belt. Because from that buckle that we just did, the lines we draw here, the bottom line of the inside square, that's where the bottom line of the belt is. The top line of the inside square, that's the top line of the belt. And we need to continue those all the way around the carving. So I'm going to start with that bottom line first and try to keep it parallel off this bottom of the carving all the way around. Try to keep it the same distance, equal distance from the bottom of the carving all the way around. All the way around, like so. Same thing with the top line. Try to keep it equal distance from the bottom line. This time, all the way around the carving. All the way around the carving till we get back to front, just like so. So that's our belt line. This is really easy to do with your V-tool. You can use a big V-tool. I'm going to use this tiny little one from Dockyard here that I just happen to have. But when I do this, I want you to understand you don't have to use this little V-tool. I could do the same exact thing with this big honkin' number 15. This is a huge V-tool. And if I just barely use the tip of it, just barely, I am carving out the same thing, the same depth of line, just by barely using the tip of that V-tool. But I don't use this big one. I can use a different one. I got another V-tool in here. This is a number 12. It's not a number 15. Then was number 15. This is number 12. When I say grab a V-tool, I mean whichever V-tool you have handy. Okay? It doesn't matter which V-tool that you use. It doesn't really matter on this kind of carving too which gouge you use, as long as it's a smaller, round gouge. When I say smaller, I mean 1/4 of an inch. If it's 3/16 of an inch, that'll work. If it's 3/8 of an inch, that'll work. Just something around that size. And if it's 3/8 of an inch, you just don't carve as deeply with your gouge. If it's under 1/4 of an inch, or if it's 1/4 of an inch, you carve a little bit deeper if you're trying to compare against someone with 3/16. You follow? Just you figure it out. You get the texture you want to go for, and that's what you do. Okay, so we got that belt set in. I'm not going to carve up to that belt or down to that belt to kind of set it in more. I like that look right there, and I'm going to go with it. I do want to set in the buckle a little bit deeper, so I'm going to carve to the right and left side of that buckle, like so, and then carve underneath the buckle and above the buckle, and then carve up to it, carve along the side of it, like so, along this side as well. And down to it. Once you got it done, if you need to go back in there and bring those lines back over to your belt, you can do that. You don't have to just use this, and I probably wouldn't. Right as it comes into the belt, I want to set that in a little bit, so I'll probably carve up to it here and down to it there to set in that buckle just a little bit more, just to make it pop a little bit. Okay, now for the inside of that buckle, this is actually pretty easy. I'm just going to carve out each of the 4 corners, and the inside of it, the rest of it, takes care of itself. So there's one corner to the opposite corner, like so. There's 2 corners, one there, one there. There's 3 corners, 1 corner left, like so. And we've got all 4 corners carved out, and that sets our buckle in pretty well. Now, you'll notice that each of these carvings have a little yellow bit at the bottom. We're going to go from the corner of that belt and carve down, corner of that belt, and just carve down and out right there, just to give us a little bit of yellow underneath there. You can use your V tool if you want to put that line in and just carve up to your belt. That works for setting this in. You can use your knife to do that. Whatever you want to do to create that line, that's all you need to do. I might even carve that in a little bit, set in a different depth for it. You don't have to. It's just if you want to. If you're carving, you can do whatever you want to do. So there we go. Bottom's done. The only thing we haven't done is set in our hat brim line and then texturing our hair. So let's go ahead and set the brim line in our hat, or the band on our hat. I'm going to maintain about 1/4 of an inch out, and I'm not even going to draw this one in. I am just going to carve it in, and I'm going to carve all the way around this guy, all the way around this head, maintaining an equal distance from the hairline. And just bring it right back around. Like that. And then that's set in. Now, let's go ahead and do our hair texture, and we'll call him done. So our hair texture, our grain is traveling up and down. If I carve this hair texture up and down, it's going to split and rip wood. If I carve it left to right, it's going to chip that wood out and look nice and pretty. Let me show you what that looks like. If I carve in left to right, I can pop that piece out, and you see how it just broke right there along the grain? Nice and easy. That's fantastic. If I do that going up and down and I pull that out, it doesn't break. It tears and it doesn't look as pretty. So we want to carve left to right for this hair. Gouges are great left to right. I need to round that off a bit more there in the front. I don't like how hard those lines are right here. If you don't like it either, what you can do is you can kind of set some depth in here. It's a little fancier. Carve back in with that knife, and then carve in like so. Just put a little sliver in there if you want to create a little shadow, if you like that kind of thing. I like a little bit of shadow. Set that nose back in there a bit farther. Okay, fantastic. Now, I'm going to keep texturing left to right, left to right. Break it up. Don't make it even. Don't let these pieces come down in the same spot on each side where there's one exactly above or below the other one. Randomize it a bit and break it up. They don't have to be overlapping one another. They don't even have to be close to each other. You can see some of these are kind of a little bit further away. Look at the ones that are finished that look great. You'll notice this one here, there's one there, one there, one there. They're not all on top of one another. They're just kind of spread out. And it still provides the effect that we're looking for. So they don't have to be right on top of each other. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to be relatively random. We just don't want it in a predictable texture. Unpredictable, and we don't notice it. If it's too predictable, we do notice it, and it looks weird, and it bothers us. There we go. All right, that guy is all finished up, and he is ready for boiled linseed oil and painting. Now I'm going to take him real fast, and I'm going to wash him up, and I'm going to take him outside, and I'm going to cut him off of this block real fast. I'll be right back. So bear with me. That's not a warning sign. There's not actually a bear with me. I'm just asking you to hold on and wait a minute. So calm down. Okay, I just cut off the bottom of that carving right there, or the bottom of that wood. So now I'm going to come back in here with a knife, and I am just going to round off the bottom of this carving. So that bottom is cut off. We don't need to do anything else there. Now I'm going to go wash him, and then we're ready to put some boiled linseed oil on. You know, you do that and then you think, oh, there's something else I could do. Here's something else I could do, right? I really want to do, right? I want to take a little V out right here. That collar is going up too high. So what I'm going to do is about 1/4 inch down from that peak corner right there, I'm going to come in straight across, then like so. And I want to carve out the top of that collar up underneath that chin, or up underneath that jawline. So I'm going to do that on both sides real fast. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to come straight across to pull out that chip. Just like so. There we go. Yeah, much better. Much better. So now I'm going to go wash him up, and then, yeah, we are all set. And there he is, all wet down, all washed up. Cleans up the carving every time you wash them, so I really enjoy washing carving. I think they look fantastic. But that is Buddy the Elf, all done, looking great. Another Christmas ornament for the family. We have finished Buddy the Elf, and Buddy turned out absolutely fantastic. A lot of fun to do that carving. Now the paint is going to pop up here momentarily, and the paint on this carving is pretty simple. The hair here, the hair on his head, is just one color, that burnt sienna kind of color right there. The same color for the green, the yellow, the white, the black, they're all one solid color. They're just very, very watered down acrylics, and then just painted on. Nothing complicated. That face, though, is where you're going to be asking the questions. Johnny, how did you get that face painted to where it looks so lifelike, so skin colored? Well, that's just bare basswood, boiled linseed oil, and then really, really watered down red paint on the lips, on the nose, and on the cheek. So, bare basswood, boiled linseed oil, and then really, really watered down red paint. Very lightly on the lips, nose, and cheeks. And that is all that is. Nothing complicated, just red paint and boiled linseed oil to get that skin effect right there. So, yeah. That's what we got for today. Thanks for sticking around the end of the video. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to say, comment down below and thanking our Patreon subscribers. Our Patreon subscribers really help me keep the lights on around here, and I appreciate it so much. Patreon has become a second home for me with interacting with folks. I really enjoy it. I post way too much sometimes on social media, and I can overwhelm certain places, certain Facebook groups and whatnot. Having an outlet where I can post more things has been fantastic, and I really enjoy it. I can post things that are less structured than what I need to have for YouTube or for other sources. So it's more freeform, more off the cuff, and I'm getting more out there, and I'm interacting with folks more, and I'm really enjoying that. The chat group over there is fantastic. There's a lot of content that's free over there. If you join up, you can get in the chat room and just chat with people, chat with other woodcarvers, including myself, and ask questions and talk about tools. We talk about tools, we talk about carvings, we talk about paint processes, all that all the time. And you can do all of that for free. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just another space that I can utilize to do that in, where I'm not worried about people being too overwhelmed with too much Johnny, because if you're there, you chose to be there. You wanted to be there. You had to go out of your way to get there. And so I don't feel bad about posting something like, oh, I'm overwhelming people too much with my stuff. I don't feel bad about posting stuff there, because I know people are expecting me to post stuff there. People are wanting me to post stuff there, and that's fantastic. And it's a little bit freeing for me, so I really enjoy that. And I really appreciate everyone that's helping to make that a welcoming environment for that. Thank you so much to each one of you. I really do appreciate it. But outside of that, thank you so much for sticking around the end of the video. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to head over to Instagram, Facebook, give me a like and a follow over there if you will. And outside of that, I'll see you folks next time. Bye.